Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up. What's up? Happy Draft Recap Monday. Adam Hoge, Mark Carman, Nicholas Moreano with you. The Bears have 10 new draft picks. This show has one brand new, beautiful sounding microphone.
Well, I'd like to thank you for putting me right there with the importance of the Bears picks and this new mic because, for me to be able to connect to the ears of my fans in a greater way has meant so much to me. And I'd like to thank my guy. Oh, yeah, there it is. Don't worry, Ladder. You're all right. Maybe not. My guy, Kurt, who got me the arguable goat hat, he sent me the Amazon link in the middle of the show, buy this microphone, Carm, and I did, and it came yesterday. It does have a little bit of an odd look to it, I think, but I'll just leave it at that. But I'm very happy to have it and happy to be here. So thank you so much, Adam, and you, Nick.
It looks good. It looks good. Sounds good.
Does it not look like what I think it looks like? I
wouldn't have really thought of that, but now
it's in everyone's head. Yeah.
The reality is you sound better. So
yes,
that's all that matters.
Yeah, that is. I mean, this has made my day. Very different feeling than this time last year, I'd say, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. So thank you very much.
Kurt is my official new leader in life, so great. And I'm very excited to go through the picks today with you guys. I'm very excited for rookie mini camp this Friday and Saturday. Get to see these guys in person. I think we can just put it out there. Coach Brian Bohannon coming on tomorrow from Kennesaw State. I'm very excited about that. The man led Travis Bell to the Bears. Let's go. That's going to be a nice, fun little hit there amongst some other guests. Hopefully we'll be having on this week. So big week for CHGO. Let's go.
I have to say, I finally, 15 minutes before the show, got my hands on a few clips of his, and I still got to dive into it a little bit more, but he's not kidding when he says he runs sideline to sideline. That was my first takeaway, is he is going everywhere. So that's exciting for Travis Bell, the Bears' 7th-round pick. I'm excited about that. His story is pretty awesome. But, I think what we want to do today, and if you missed any of our coverage, there's a lot to catch up on. Of course, you can check out our shows from Thursday and Friday if you want to go back and kind of get some of the raw reaction. We also pulled out on our YouTube channel smaller clips when each pick was made, so you can get the initial instant reaction. And then Saturday's show, which has been very popular in the last couple of days, is a recap of everything. So what we kind of wanted to do today is probably zoom out a little bit more and just look at the totality of the class. And I know everybody wants to give grades on the Monday after the draft. Let me just be very clear in how I do this. I'm grading the process. I'm not trying to sit here and say, these are, 3 Hall of Famers and 2 busts and, a bunch of, no one really knows how these players are going. Even the Bears don't know how these players are going to do once they show up to the building on Friday and rookie minicamp starts and they start to get in the swing of things. But I do think that there's something to be said for grading the process, grading the value of some of these picks, grading what the Bears feel and are projecting from some of these guys versus maybe what we're looking at on tape. And obviously they're way more qualified than we are, but we do look at it. So I think this is going to be a fun conversation. And we're going to, put a grade value on it. Nick, how you feeling a couple of days? First of all, how are you feeling?
Better.
You were struggling
Better.
through the weekend a little bit.
It was a struggle, but as we all did, we were grinding away. I'm about halfway through this vitamin C bag drops that I got right here, so we're getting better, and hopefully I won't need to potentially overdose on those things. But we're good. We're good. We're trending in the right direction, like this Bears team.
Carb.
Look, honestly, right now I'm just mesmerized the fact that Nick and I have the same exact microphone and that he was able to figure out how to use and that I could never figure out. I don't know how the hell I have that thing and he sounds great and I always sounded like shit. But look, I like how you're going about your draft, Hoge, just grading it out. But the way I'm doing it is, from a slightly let's try to be skeptical and be fair at the same time viewpoint. And so I'm looking at like who went right after that the Bears could have had, and would that, to your point, like would that have made more sense along their process? It's a very hard game to play. It's unfair probably, but the way I kind of been just try to pick it is who was there? Who did they pick? Would it have made more sense to go in another direction? Sometimes it does, and sometimes I feel like they nailed it. And some of them are super hard. Like for me, like the first round is I'm there was just not a lot of consensus around the offensive linemen. The Bears have to trust their own evaluation. So they love Darnell Wright. That was their guy. They were willing to move back one space, but they weren't willing to move back any further. I would have been maybe a little more risky. And like whoever the last offensive lineman was left, I would have spun with it because they basically were all graded the same. But then you could have owned the way it went out. You couldn't have gone any further back than 14. So, who wanted to trade up from there? Probably not a lot of candidates. So I don't know how much more they could have gotten. But then the other side of it is, could they have gotten that right tackle later, an Anton Harrison type, and taken the edge rusher that they don't have? But nobody really loved Lukas Van Ness. I mean, there was a huge mix on that. The Packers have him, but he could be a tweener. It didn't start at all. Yes, there were good players in front of him. So it's a really tough call right now to figure out if they did it right.
Well, let's take a look. I have to say the Bears are getting quite a bit of praise, and we have a list, a compilation of some of the draft grades that have been given out, and it's pretty flattering. Bleacher Report, A. Sporting News, A. The Ringer, A. USA Today, A. NFL.com, A-, ESPN, B+, Pro Football Focus, B+, Sports Illustrated, B, New York Post, B-, and those frauds at the Washington Post going with a C+.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, guys, it's like when people on the outside looking in, I mean, I think overall they like what the Bears did with their 10 draft picks. And, obviously it starts when they traded out of number 1 with the Carolina Panthers and we're able to get, the guys that we're going to talk about today. But I'm in that range of like grading the Bears in a positive light here, and we'll talk about again how exactly we did each individual grades. But yeah, I think the Bears, they addressed obviously some needs on this roster, but like Mark was just saying, like the edge rusher position that was left out of this the 10 draft picks that they got.
I think it's important too to also factor in that this whole haul started with having the number 1 pick. Mm-hmm. So when you factor in DJ Moore being part of this, future first-round pick being a part of this, another future second-round pick being a part of this, they added a 4th-round pick next year by trading back to number 10. There's more draft capital, a number 1 wide receiver, and a bunch of needs that got addressed. Now, I'm not totally on board with all of the picks right now. I don't hate any of them. I'm a little bit skeptical on some of them. But I think if I did just solely off of what was done over the weekend, I'd probably give this like a B. If I factor in the totality, though, of going back to March and trading back to 9 and factoring that all into it, which I think you have to do, I'm more of like an A-, because I think, again, this is about process. All 10 of these picks can end up being bad players, which unlikely, but and I would still sit here today and be like, I like the process. I like the way Ryan Poles went about this from the very beginning, from, being in that awkward position of having to talk about Justin Fields and not fully committing to him, even though they really were, to making a pick with the Panthers, the way it was handled at the combine to get that big haul. And another takeaway too, is I guess I kind of go in a couple different directions, but based on how the draft played out on Thursday, because there was always this idea, could the Bears get more if they waited? I don't know that they could have. I don't know that there's a consensus either way on it.
That part of the process, if we're just going process-based, which is the only way you should be going about that, I do not blame him. Poles had a deal where he felt comfortable. And I think it's just very logical that you got a wide receiver that they absolutely positively had to have, that sets up that entire room, and you didn't have to go back that far. And the Texans weren't ready to move. He tried to get that done. He was trying to go 1-2, 2-9, and Houston wasn't ready to go. Could he have sat in his anxiety and waited for Houston to come around and hope that Carolina didn't do anything else? Maybe, but that's just, he was. I think his process in that part of it was absolutely correct.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with how it all ended up playing out with the draft here, and we see obviously the first couple of picks there. You have the 3 quarterbacks going in the top 4. And then, the Eagles wanted to move up to go get Jalen Carter there. So I think in hindsight, I think Ryan Poles did make the right move at that moment, at that time, and it still played out to work in their advantage, when draft night came up on Thursday night. So how Ryan Poles obviously, thought about the process of trading back and, trying to gauge what Mark was just saying what the Texans wanted to do. I think it's still played out in the Bears' favor, and they still got the guys. Ultimately, got the guy they wanted in Darnell Wright, and were able to get him, a pick later than what they were originally select at number 9, and got him at number 10.
Did you guys see what The Athletic wrote about Hogan Johns? The Athletic wrote about Darnell Wright. Can I read this to you real fast? I know it's pretty. It's
Who wrote it?
It was written not by Adam Johns, not by Dane Brugler. But by
Scott Docterman?
It was
my
Scott,
former professor at Iowa.
The doctor was in. He eviscerates the pick. He writes, "Dub Bears. The Bears had an NFL low, 20 sacks, ranked 31st in total defense, had a major need along the D-line, especially at Matt Eberflus's coveted 3 technique. Instead, the Bears opted for a right tackle in the draft's most questionable early move," is what he put. GM Ryan Poles was a former O-lineman and has tried to rebuild this roster on the O-line first, and Wright will help, but the Bears have nothing on the defensive line, absolutely nothing. Wright started at 3 different positions along the Vols O-line over 4 seasons, but played his best football last fall at right tackle. In the Vols' quick-tempo, big strike scheme, Wright was forced to block some of the country's top edge rushers, like Will Anderson, Carm editorial, and didn't allow a sack in 2022. He's physical and nasty, but still has room to grow in his technique to become an upper-level O-lineman. And then he goes into his combine, and he gives the grade a D-. The big D- from the doctor. I was like, good Lord, doctor.
Yeah.
One man's opinion. One man's opinion. Let's not freak out on one man's opinion. Yeah.
Adam Johns and Fish Fan were getting a lot of crap for that. We're like, whoa, the Athletic gave the Bears a D- there. He's like, yeah, no, that's not us. That's not us, you guys. As we were like at House Hall. But I think too, like Scott really liked Lukas Van Ness as a prospect, and obviously covers the Iowa Hawkeyes, knows all about him, and he would have been a help on the defensive line. But I have no problem with Darnell Wright. I think that helps Justin Fields. Like that's the thing too. Like with the pick, that helps the offense. That's going to help Justin Fields stay upright. So, yeah, it's one man's opinion, like you said, Mark.
He, for the record, gave the Lions an F on Jahmyr Gibbs, and I actually completely agree with him. There's no way you needed to take him at 6. That dude is available at 18. He's probably available in the second round.
Well, Well,
At 12, Brad. At 12.
You're the guy who was slamming the table for Bijan Robinson,
who went 8. He went. What?
I know, but here's the thing: if you're okay drafting a running back, I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs was a bad pick.
Hold on.
Wait, Gibbs didn't go 6 though.
I meant 12th. He went 12th.
Okay.
He's absolutely there at 8. They traded back. They got him at 12. They could have had him at 18, where they also overdrafted Jack Campbell. Maybe they'll be right on these picks, but the part of it is also like, who can you get? When can you get him later? Like, just because
But that's actually an answer we don't know.
I think we do know on Jahmyr Gibbs.
I don't know that we know that.
You think Jahmyr Gibbs would have gone 13, 14, 15, 16, 17?
There's a lot of people who thought he could have gone in the 20s.
Okay, in the 20s. You had the 18th pick.
A week ago, no one thought Darnell Wright was going 10th.
Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, okay, now I'll talk out of both sides of my mouth and say, at the end of the day, if you get the guy that you want, he's a good player, it's going to look good. But I understand why the good doctor gave him an F on that. Jahmyr Gibbs at 12, no one had that.
All right,
I'm sorry.
Now, back to the Bears picks, and we are going to talk a little bit about the NFC North in the next segment and how they grade it out. When I said that I would probably give it like a solid B before you factor in all the the stuff that happened before the draft and the overall haul, including DJ Moore. So I really like the Darnell Wright pick. I've been on record on that. I think it fills a need. I think it's a plug and play starter. I think that's good. Now, the defensive tackles are where I'm trying to be a little bit more cautious. And a little tease here. This morning, Corey Wooten and I spent a lot of time breaking down film from both Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens. So we are going to get those produced and edited and out soon. So keep an eye out for one of those. But one of the themes you're going to see in the Gervon Dexter video in that breakdown is he has a great game in the game we break down, and he makes a lot of big plays, and you see the athleticism, you see the size, you see his strength, and him being able to toss guys and still make a play in the backfield when it looks like he's swallowed up and not going to be able to do anything. It's very impressive. But the other thing you see very, 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 very consistently is he is the last guy off the ball. And it's to a level that both Corey and I were very concerned about it. And it cannot just be blamed on read and react because there's literally snaps where they're playing Kentucky in this game that we break down, where Will Levis has the ball in his hands and a shotgun. Like he'd already had the ball snapped to him. The ball is in his hands, and Dexter still got his hands on the ground. So this is a big leap of trust here that the athleticism scores and how they look at explosiveness by looking at broad jump and vertical, that coming into this Bears scheme, that's just going to click, because some guys just never really have good timing and good get off, and they never really develop that no matter how athletic they are. And there's other guys, I want to say was it Jonathan Bullard? Jonathan Bullard had the greatest get off of all time. And he didn't have the rest of the package. So it's not to say that this isn't going to work, but in the Bears scheme where the get off and the explosiveness and that initial quickness and burst is so important, this is a projection. And I think ultimately when we look back on this pick 3 years later, that's what we're going to be looking at. It's going to be, did Dexter develop that and fit into this Bears scheme? Pick that up, and if he does, I think I'd say watch out, because he's got everything else, and it's very, very impressive. And quite frankly, it's very impressive because he gets swallowed up sometimes by these college linemen because of the lack of get off, and he still manages to rip them away and make the play. Now, what I'm worried about is it ain't Kentucky at the next level, man. These guys, you don't get off the ball and you get swallowed up early, you're not going to win, and so that's where this is a big projection.
Yeah, and Adam, I know Ryan Polsey mentioned that about Dexter, saying so far Dexter a little bit more of a square stance, read and mirror, kind of what you were talking about. And I wonder too, now that he's gonna have a different responsibility as a 3 tech, where you want to penetrate and get upfield, and I wonder how long that takes. right? We don't know that. We don't have that answer yet. So for him, I mean, that's going to be the projection. Obviously, they think that with drafting him in the second round, that he could make that jump, make that transition to being more of that 3 tech. But it probably is going to take time. If he's been used to this type of defense and what his role was, it's probably going to take some time. But to kind of speak to the 3 tech, we knew that was a position too in the draft where there were some top guys, being Jalen Carter, Kalijah Cansey. You put Benton up there too. But then after that, there was like a bit of a drop off in a sense. So them taking like the double swing at it for, in my opinion, I think that's a good way of going about it if you're trying to still find that all important player in this defense. And because you're going to have these guys mixed in playing different positions as well, like you want to almost have more opportunities, more swings at it. And they obviously got Bell later on in the draft. So for the 3 tech position, that it's just one approach they can take to try to fill that much needed coveted position. But for me, I kind of like that they went with 2 guys as opposed to just putting everything they have in one guy in Dexter. They did it with 3 guys essentially.
What I find, or what I'd like to ask Ryan Poles when we get a chance to do it again, is like, it's not like they don't have the same. They have all the tape. They saw him getting off the ball late, but they feel comfortable that he is going to be able to learn it. To me, that's almost a trait where you either have it or you don't. And that's, I think, Woot's biggest concern. But the Bears are, Poles has to have a ton of faith in his coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they asked him about it, or I don't, they had to have, this is not something that we saw that they didn't see. So there's a confidence in there, which I like and also scares me at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I would venture to guess that there's something in the history of Flus and DeForest Buckner that he sees that is just there. And it's been a while now since I was breaking down the DeForest Buckner tape. But I remember doing it, and I think the big difference there was, he was a big time prospect who you knew the entire draft process was going to go top 10. Some had him as, a top 3 prospect that year coming out back in 2016 when he was drafted by the 49ers. So there's definitely a little bit of a difference there. But my guess is just there in that vision. That's what they're looking at, what they're seeing that they think is going to translate. And, I hope it does. Because when Woot and I were breaking down this tape, we're like, man, the get off is so bad, and yet he's still making all these plays, so he must be pretty damn good.
That's a positive way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
And let's also remember, look, the house was on fire. You had nothing there. You had to address it. Like, you didn't address it in free agency. You passed on Jalen Carter. You can't play without, a different defensive line going into 2023. So that was definitely, I wonder if he was the BPA at that, best player available at that point or not, but they had to get in there and do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're going to keep it moving here. I want to make sure you know about Fubo TV, 140 plus live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. Stream live TV from any device. It's really easy, and you can watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price. Start watching immediately with a 7-day free trial. No contract, no cable, no hassle. You just sign up and start watching. You get 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge. Watch local teams while traveling, which is one of the best perks. And we got so many events still coming up on the calendar. Of course, the NHL and NBA playoffs. How about some of those games last night? Game 7's going on in the NHL. I'm sorry, like, I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but you tell me on Twitter that there's a game 7 in overtime, I'm turning that game on, which I did last night, and the Panthers ending the Bruins record-breaking season there in Boston. That was a big game. You watch it all right there on Fubo. Got the NHL draft coming up as well, and best part is they have both the Cubs and White Sox with both Marquee and NBC Sports Chicago, which some of these other competitors don't have. So watch the Cubs on Marquee, watch the White Sox on NBC Sports Chicago with Fubo TV. Use the link in the description to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro.
And watch him when you're wearing your Shady Rays. You can take on the Fubo and you can take on the sun. Gear that is built to last. We love our friends at Shady Rays who've got you covered through the warm weather ahead and all year round. The premium polarized shades at an affordable price. I just feel so much more comfortable with my Shady Rays on. And I also love supporting the independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product just as good as any expensive pair that you have ever worn. Shady Rays, you know it, you love it. They've got the most insane protection plan in all of eyewear, every pair backed by their lost and broken replacements. If you lose or you break a pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. They're not going to hassle you. They're going to be like, oh, sweet. We'll send you a new pair. We love you. Thank you for being a part of the Shady Rays world. If you don't love them, you can exchange it for a new pair, return them for free also within 30 days. No risk when you shop. The team always has your back. And exclusively for you, the CHGO listener, Shady Rays giving you their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com. Use the code CHGO. 50% off 2 pairs of polarized sunglasses. You can try for yourself. These shades rated 5 stars, 5 of them, by over 250,000 people. And also a reminder, by the way, that CHGO Bears offseason coverage has been brought to you right now and the rest of the show and the rest of the day and the rest of the week by the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program. Learn more at ComEd.com/poweringbiz.
All right. So I guess before we get to some of these NFC North teams, did you guys give specific grades? I'm going A-, factoring in the whole big picture, trading back from number 1, everything Ryan Poles did. If we're just focusing on the weekend, I'm more of a B.
Yeah, I'm going with the solid B. Again, looking at what they were able to do, I think the main focus was still getting Justin Fields more playmakers and just stabilizing that line. Felt like they were able to do that with Roschon Johnson, getting another running back, Tyler Scott, the wide receiver, and obviously Darnell Wright. So like what they did in this draft, and obviously we talked about edge rusher not being addressed, but solid B for me.
I'm with Nick, but I'll throw in a plus just because I appreciate the aggressiveness of what they did with specifically the running back and the wide receiver and Roschon Johnson and Tyler Scott that I'm excited about. I'm also starting to fall in love with Tyreek Stevenson, despite the fact that he's got some stuff off the field that you don't love. You do love the dog that is him on the field. And I did not necessarily think they would address corner, even though it made sense for them to do. And the trade-up seems aggressive, but I'm starting to fall in love with that. My one negative on this whole thing is not so much to do with the draft, but it does have a little bit to do with the draft and Noah Sewell, who I'm not saying is not going to be a good player, but it is a little bit confusing to me, their philosophy, when you have your best player on the defense last year, arguably with the massive production. It just seems like they just do not value Jack Sanborn at all at this point. And yes, I have been sitting here buying the jersey and the Sand God, and there's that part of it. But outside of even that, like, I hope that they don't just completely go down this measurable thing and forget exactly what is going on the field. That guy was undrafted. Mm-hmm. You took a swing on him. He should have been drafted. He should have been drafted in the middle rounds at worst. And now it's like you're almost kicking him to the curb, it feels like. And that I hope we're not getting too caught up in he jumped this high and he ran this fast and all that type of stuff versus actually what's happening on the field.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because they are full, relative athletic score all the way to the top, and I think overall it's a good strategy. But it's a good. I think the Noah Sewell pick was one that was truly best player available, true because it wasn't a need. I don't know if you guys saw what Bruce Feldman wrote in the Athletic post draft, but he had 14 takeaways from the entire draft, and out of 14 takeaways the entire draft, one of those is Noah Sewell. It was Noah Sewell. One of them was because he said that if he had come out after 2021, which he couldn't do, he was only a sophomore at that point. But if he had, he would have said he would have thought he was a top 20 pick in the entire draft.
Wow. Yeah.
And for various reasons that quite frankly I'm still sort of looking into, but obviously they used him differently. There was a new coaching staff. according to some of the information Feldman had in his piece, quoting some scouts, they thought he didn't play with the same energy. And so I think the Bears are making a calculated bet here. 5th round, 148 overall, not the end of the world. That if they got 2021 Noah Sewell, they got a stud. And regardless of position, you want to add good football players. So
yeah, and
I do agree that of all the players on this roster, it's been a tough few months for Jack Sanborn, who, really played lights out and was incredible last year. And, I still think they walk onto the field at training camp and he's the starting Sam backer, but Noah Sewell might push him. If we learn anything about Jack Sanborn, though, he's gonna keep fighting. Man. He's gonna be in there. By the way, injuries are gonna happen, and it's a position of depth.
I listen, at the end of the day, too, arguing against what I just said, I don't think they dislike Sanborn. I don't think that's not logical. How could they dislike him? The guy played great. So maybe it is just a best player available. Let's get some depth in here. Let's we're not going to worry about who's there right now. We're taking the best dude on the board, and I can see that. And then the same thing of what I just said. It's like, hey, the whole philosophy of the draft is based on RAS and whatnot. It's like, I hope you're right, and I hope your coaching is right, but it also makes me a little nervous.
Well, one more quick thing, too. It was a subtle comment made by Alan Williams in the video the Bears put out of the call to Gervon Dexter. And it was like almost towards the end of it. If you didn't watch all of it, you probably wouldn't even see where Alan Williams got on the phone. But he says, we're going to build this thing the way this defense is supposed to be built, inside out. Which is pretty incredible to think about. The lack of, when they make the Roquan Smith trade, they don't have much inside going out, and if you look at this offseason, it's been all those linebackers. It's now been, they signed some defensive tackles. They added 2 somewhat early in this draft as well. So the emphasis here really seems to be back towards building that inside out. And I think you look at this defense up the middle now, certainly compared to where it was in the middle of last season, it looks a whole of a lot. It looks a lot better, regardless of, how these picks work out, which is still the question mark. You can at least see the emphasis put in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I want to give a quick shout out to Brian at Bears Fit, who does watch our show every single day.
What's up, Brian?
Brian, he's always watching. We talked about the draft and like the traits we were just talking about. And, it kind of is almost reminiscent of like what, the former GM Ryan Pace would do, like going up with those traits. You think of like 1st round pick, Kevin White, right? Bunch of traits guy, Leonard Floyd. And I think what we heard from, Ryan Poles over, the weekends, like, these traits, can allow these players, they don't always have to be perfect, right? And that's always a good thing. But like we were just saying, you still want to get good football players. And ultimately, a lot of these players that have these high-end traits are good football players, but that shouldn't be the only evaluation. But we were just talking about that as we were discussing the draft. Overall, Brian likes it. And I think a lot of Bears fans do as well, but I just want to give him a shout out right here.
We appreciate it, Brian. It's good.
This quick super chat from Doug before we move on. Do you think they see Sewell as a potential defensive end edge in their scheme? I don't. To me, when I look at the difference between 2021 and 2022, that seems to be the problem. That they tried to use him as more of a pass rusher instead of just a linebacker that knows how to blitz. So that's where I'm hung up on it. Like I see it. I mean, I know he had some pass rushing production, but to me, it's more of a inside backer that can blitz. Although I'll be, full transparency, definitely need to go back and watch more tape on him, and I haven't gotten that far with a lot of these guys. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the rest of the NFC North. We'll start with the Green Bay Packers, the quarterbackless Packers. Actually, I stand corrected. They do have a quarterback. His name's Jordan Love, and they drafted another one. His name's Sean Clifford from Penn State, who nobody thought was getting drafted. So
they straight messed it up. You could add Holton Ahlers as an undrafted free agent. Instead, he's going to dominate in Seattle. Rise and shine, Green Bay. Horrible pick, Sean Clifford, number 149.
So the conversation about Lukas Van Ness, 15th overall, is fascinating to me. Our initial reaction, both mine and Corey Wooten, I think some kind of the whole table there, was like, that's an interesting fit there for the defense that they run, trying to use him on the edge. I know he has the ability to kick inside, so it's like, and maybe I see it like maybe they think he's a 5 technique, where the one drawback on him was he didn't have refined pass rush moves. So maybe use more of that power. This will be an interesting fit. And there's definitely people out there that they know more about this than me. But I did want to read this from Jordan Reed, who I think does a really good job of covering the draft and his scouting eye. He said Van Ness is an ideal fit in the Packers scheme, as he can align off the edge, but also reduce down inside during passing downs. At Iowa, 50% of his snaps came off the edge, while 39% came as a defensive tackle.
Yep.
So I think ultimately Lukas Van Ness went about the range he should have. I guess I'm questioning the ceiling of that pick, I guess, in that scheme. Like, I think he can be an effective rotational player. They've gotten by with like guys like Dean Lowry from Northwestern for a long time now that have had a pretty good impact there. So I'm not debating that Lukas Van Ness is going to be a good player there. I think he will be. I don't know that it's going to put him in the best position to totally take off. Quickly, Luke Musgrave. I like that pick.
Good pick.
If the medicals are there, they take Luke Musgrave. Now he has not played a whole lot the last few years because of injuries and stuff like that. So there is a little bit of a projection. He's got to stay healthy. We talked a lot about Jaden Reed in the pre-draft process. For him to go, in the second round, good job by him, considering he also was dealing with injuries and didn't have the best tape. They double dip on tight ends with Tucker Kraft in the third round. Whole bunch of other guys. One name I will warn you about, because I think he's going to be somebody to keep an eye on in the future when the Bears are playing the Packers. But Colby Wooden, the defensive tackle they took in the 4th round before they grabbed Sean Clifford.
Thought you were going to mention Carl Brooks there, Adam, is another one of those guys.
I feel like I've talked a lot about Carl Brooks, but yeah, the fact that he went all the way to the 6th round, we had him super high on our board. Woot really liked him. I like that pick a lot, considering where they got him in the 6th round.
For the record, I feel like going Braggs in the stands here and start doing things like Musgrave and Van Ness is a tweener and he can't make it. And why the hell are you drafting 2 tight ends, let alone somebody out of South Dakota State? And by the way, Musgrave can't stay healthy either. And then the other side of it is that Musgrave, if he hits on what he's capable of, talk about like betting on what, Dexter and everything like that on the Bears side. Musgrave could be like Travis Kelce if it really all comes together for him. The dude's physical and he's fast as hell, so that's a little bit scary. I like Jaden Reed.
Yeah, I like the receivers they got. With Jaden Reed, they also got the Dontavian Wicks, who I'm not as high on, but there's if I were to name a few sleepers in this draft, Grant DeBose from Charlotte would have been one of those guys. They got him in the 7th round. He's a deep, speedy threat. And he goes up and gets the football too. He's on the taller side at 6'2", and that's just like one of those guys who, I hate to say it, but I could see picturing burning the Bears defense for a touchdown here and there. Now, I say that with so many memories of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers throwing those deep balls. So they now with Jordan Love, maybe that won't actually come to fruition the way it would with some of these, with the last 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, guys, with Jordan Love, I mean, when you look at their picks here, you get the 2 tight ends, you get 2 wide receivers, a running back. Like, they got a lot of offensive weapons just from this draft alone for Jordan Love to go utilize. They didn't draft an offensive lineman. Don't know how Green Bay's offensive line is at this point, but I think that was the right approach because, again, this is Jordan Love we're talking about. You better surround him with as much talent as humanly possible to see what you can get. This is their evaluation here. Finally, 3 years after drafting the guy. They're finally going to see what he's capable of. But I think it made sense how the Green Bay Packers kind of approached it with trying to surround Jordan Love with some offensive talent.
DeBose stinks, Hoge. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
He's not doing anything. Although, as Brugler puts, DuBose plays with the body fluidity and catch point talent that increases chances of finding a permanent home in the NFL, although he has work to do to be considered more than just a jump ball weapon or zone beater. He has rotational value as an NFL rookie, which, as a 7th-round pick late in the 7th round, that ain't bad.
Yeah. No, he's a jump ball guy, and that's what I'm worried about. Now, here's what's interesting. Going back to just to wrap up the Packers, to go back to their first pick, I mean, we had Nolan Smith ahead of Lukas Van Ness on our board for the Bears, for their defense. With the Packers defense, I would have had even more of a gap. I would have had Nolan Smith probably higher than Miles Murphy even, and certainly way higher than Lukas Van Ness. So that's where I'm struggling to kind of put that pick together. Because I think I think when they were on the clock, actually, I might have said something like, oh, the Packers are going to get Nolan Smith here. They should have. And that's where, so if I'm going to put an overall grade on the Packers draft, which I like a lot of these picks, I still don't necessarily like what they did in the first round. So I'm going to give them a B-.
Outside of the scheme, the Nolan Smith thing is just interesting to me when you look back on the draft, because he's getting Micah Parsons comparisons leading into the draft. Then he falls. So people don't think that he's going to be able to get to the quarterback, and maybe he's a linebacker, which, okay, we're not going to take a linebacker here. But then he gets taken by the Eagles, who know what the hell they're doing. So that's just a very interesting guy to pay attention to coming into next season as to how well he performs.
I can't believe he fell as far as he did. All right, before we get to the Vikings and the Lions, CHGO supported by Goose Island Beer Company, of course, Chicago's beer since 1988. The roster right now, it's so strong. You got Goose IPA, of course. You got Green Line. You can never go wrong with Green Line. Tropical Beer Hug is if you like those heavier IPAs, but still they kind of have that refreshing taste to them in the summer. This is the one you want. Dry hopped, 9.9% alcohol. That's dangerously easy to drink. 312 wheat ale. The full pocket pills. There's a summertime ale that just came out that's in my fridge. So many good options. And you know what? They were awesome helping us out with our draft shows, sponsoring our draft shows over the weekend. We thank Goose Island a lot. You can thank them back by grabbing ultra fresh brewery exclusive beers at Goose Island's original brew house on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park. Actually, not too far from where we were over the weekend, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer.
The Goose was flowing at Joe's on Week. Thanks again to those guys. That was a phenomenal weekend for all of us. And thanks to all our CHGO peeps that came out and supported. And thanks to, most importantly, all of you who came out. It was awesome to hang with Renata and Gary and the whole entire crew, people coming from all over. A lot of energy from them. Look at that segue. The Carman Energy Efficiency Program, Nick, is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future.
Loving the energy there, Mark. And Carman offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades, commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across the territory. Carman also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities, like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes there, Mark.
Nick, I would so love if you could tell me exactly how that works.
Oh, I got you, Mark. An industrial engineer, an authorized engineer, maybe an industrial engineer as well, will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. So pretty quick process there, Mark. And within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. And if you own a business, don't wait. Get started saving money in energy today. For energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz.
Avoidance begets avoidance. A good reminder. By the way, Nick, did you say ComEd.com/poweringbiz, i.e. do it now?
I did, Mark. So go schedule it today.
ComEd.com/poweringbiz. Hoge, get involved.
Boom. Love it. All right. I saw Braggs wants to get in here with his grades. I think there's a comment in there with his completely unbiased grades from the draft. He gives the Bears an A+, the Packers an F, the Lions an F, the Vikings an F, and CHGO an A++++.
I mean, seems pretty legit to me. I don't know about you guys, but
Braggs is such a moron. But I love him. Rams and Chad, Gregory, great grades. Hey, maybe you'll be right. Bears domination, CHGO domination. Everybody else sucks.
All right. Let's get to some of the Lions picks here.
hate them.
You hate them?
I hate them. No. There's 2 Iowa Hawkeyes in there, so I can't hate them. I just maybe like where they were taken. To like what Mark was kind of saying earlier. I don't know. Maybe Jack Campbell was higher on a lot of other NFL teams' big boards, but when I saw that pick in the first round, I'm like, wow, okay, Jack Campbell's a first rounder. Sam Laporta got taken before Michael Mayer, and I think Luke Musgrave, if I'm not mistaken. And, I think he's going to be a good NFL tight end, but just seeing that, I was like, okay, that's an interesting choice too. I do like the Hendon Hooker pick. I like Brian Branch. I think I like their picks later on in the draft than I do actually what they did in the first round.
I'm 100% with Nick. Like Branch, top safety, you get him in the second round, 45 overall. That's a decent job. Hendon Hooker makes a ton of sense for the Lions. I think they got very lucky that he fell all the way to 68. But as underlined earlier, I'm sorry. If he's great, I will, come back around and give all the credit to the Detroit Lions and their brilliance for taking Jahmyr Gibbs 12 and Jack Campbell, who has the production. So, but like again, it almost seems like the Lions were playing checkers when a lot of other people were playing chess with the value of the picks.
Yeah, I guess I just don't like that they traded back, and I feel like they could have gotten more. Like you saw some of those mock drafts that were going on, and they were getting these hauls that included Jalen Carter, and just. But that being said, I think I'm giving this a B because I think they got a starting running back. I know they got a starting linebacker. Jack Campbell's going to start week 1 for them, without a doubt.
Sure.
Without a doubt. Sam Laporta, they needed to replace Hockenson after they traded him. And he's probably going to be right in there pretty quickly. So Brian Branch, who a lot of people thought could have gone a lot earlier, he's got an opportunity to be in there pretty damn quick as well. So that's 4 starters right there that very well could be in there week 1 on an already pretty good team. I think that there were avenues where they could have come away like slam dunk, one of the better drafts, and I'm not sure this is it, but I still think it's pretty damn solid. They got a lot of good football players that are going to be very valuable for them. And then to take a swing on Hendon Hooker in the 3rd, I like it. I like where they got him. If you're going to knock them for where they got Jahmyr Gibbs, I think you give them credit for where they got Hendon Hooker. They don't have to play him right away. He's coming off the ACL. He can sit there and learn for a little bit. And then whether it's later in the year when he's healthy, and that's going to be something to watch because if Jared Goff struggles, there's going to be calls for Hendon Hooker. But in an ideal world, if Jared Goff can play like he did last year, Hendon Hooker doesn't need to see the field in 2023. He can come back healthy the following year, and even though he's going to be 26, that's probably when they make their move to their next quarterback.
Hoge, I want to make a bet with you. I already owe you a bottle of bourbon, which you'll get tomorrow when we're in studio.
Let's go.
All right, and this bet is would be heavily favored my way because I'm taking the field. But I will bet you that Jahmyr Gibbs is not the second most productive running back this year. You want to make that bet? You can have. I'm not even saying that
among who?
Among the draftees.
Oh,
any
okay.
running back that was picked this year. And I'm not even saying that he has to be like I'm not saying Bijan and Jahmyr. You can have whoever is number 1 and number 2. I'll bet you that Jahmyr falls under number 2.
Yeah, I don't want to take that bet. I think you're probably right.
Okay.
They have a crowded backfield. I think carries will be limited.
Well, they got a 4th round pick for Swift. It's only the 2 of them, right? Who am I missing?
I think there's still a 3rd one there, but I think and then we know this. Like, there's always Isaiah Pacheco later in the draft that.
Zach Charbonnet in Seattle, like that seems like a guy that would also be pretty productive there.
Which speaks to Carm's point. Like, even if it's easier to swallow missing out on Jahmyr Gibbs than maybe missing out even on Jack Campbell to some extent, by reaching a little bit for these guys. So I see it from both sides. Absolutely. The Duke chiming in. The Duke 811 $10. The love affair CHGO has with the Detroit Lions is getting nauseating. When they are awful again this year, I plan on relentlessly reminding you of these takes.
Who said the Lion? Who's singing the Lions' praises? Who gave him
a
B?
Know.
Come on, Duke.
I don't know.
Bragg just gave him an F.
Gave everyone an F.
I don't think anyone's sitting here saying the Lions are going to be that good. I like a couple of these moves. I like how they've added a lot of good football players, and I like Dan Campbell because he's awesome.
I'll take it on Duke. Detroit's the favorite in the division right now. That's just the fact,
without a doubt. If I had to make a bet right now, does Detroit win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years? No chance.
Detroit. Sorry, that's like my analysis for it's Detroit. Yeah. Like, yes, they're sending maybe the front runner in the division, but not to that extreme winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, when we all have to thank Detroit too. The Packers were going to the playoffs if they won at home, and the Lions walked their ass in there and beat them. And Aaron Rodgers is now a New York Jet showing up at Knicks games and watching the Knicks lose to the Heat. I mean, and by the way, he looks like awful comfortable in New York. So we do actually, at least a little bit, owe the Detroit Lions a thank you, doing something that the Bears were unable to do.
Yeah, but when the Bears and Jets both finish in the same position in their divisions this year, and Aaron Rodgers and the Jets visit Soldier Field in 2024, that's when Carm gets his revenge game.
I really hope that happens. Let's go. Come on, Aaron. Come back in that green and white.
I don't hope that happens. How many times have you seen that guy just trample on your heart? You really think if that happens that the Bears are going to win that game?
Live life. Let's go. I want to play. I want to compete. By 2024, this roster is going to be so sweet with the 2 first-round picks next year when he's just flying into edge rushers that are going to kill people. I know you are, Ryan Poles. I believe in you, baby. Poles. I'll take on Aaron Rodgers in 2024. Let's go.
Okay. All right, let's take a look at the Vikings real quick. And then I think before we get out of here, we got Super Chats. I kind of want to peek at the Panthers, too, since speaking of that first-round pick the Bears get. Going to be rooting against Carolina all year. All right, first round, they end up with Jordan Addison, who I thought this was a little early for Jordan Addison. There's other wide receivers I like more. Nick, this was your guy though, right?
Yeah, I like Jordan Addison. I don't know if I like him. Well, for the Vikings, I guess it gives Kirk Cousins another weapon for them to just get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. But sure, yeah, it makes another compliment to Justin Jefferson. So yeah, I think Jordan Addison was going to probably go in the 20s range, and 23 seems about right.
I'll say this about Jordan Addison. I like him, and I would say this probably about any wide receiver, but I'd like him better playing with Justin Jefferson than I do if he got drafted by a team that was like, you need to be our number one. You need to be our Justin Jefferson. Then I would have been like, I don't know if that's going to work out. But Yeah, that one caught my eye on Thursday when I was like, oh, there's one more wide receiver that the Bears have to worry about there. They go back-to-back USC picks because their next pick did not come until the third round, and they took Mekhi Blackman, the cornerback from USC. I don't have a lot of takeaways from this Vikings draft class other than it was very noticeable that they didn't take any players that were high on the relative athletic scores, whereas most of the teams in the division did the exact opposite. The Bears definitely did the exact opposite. The one guy I was kind of sort of keeping an eye on in this draft as a potential quarterback target for the Bears was Jaron Hall, who ended up going to one pick before the Bears. I think before the Bears took Terrell Smith. I want to say that was that area of that draft.
He was 164.
Yeah, Terrell Smith was 165.
Yep.
So,
I mean, yeah.
The run on quarterbacks was kind of fascinating. I don't think there was that many great quarterbacks, but everybody's kind of looking for their Brock Purdy now. Everybody was in take a swing at a quarterback mood, except for the Bears.
The Jordan Addison pick for the Minnesota, let's just stick there for a second. That was during a run on wide receivers. He was the fourth one taken. Maybe they got it right. Super productive in the slot, which makes a whole lot of sense when you go with Justin Jefferson. But I got to say, at the time, I was like, and he went way later, so maybe I'm dead wrong. But I was thinking Hendon Hooker for them. You are not riding with Kirk Cousins forever. And like in my mind, like Hooker, and I think Cousins gets a slightly bad rap. But it's like, but on other levels, like Hooker could have competed with him this year, possibly. So, maybe they have it right, and the three receivers that went right in front of them were wrong ordered, if you will, and that happens all the time. So maybe Minnesota got it right with Addison.
All right, quick peek.
Yeah, it's a good point by All Day 304. He is their Thielen replacement, really.
Yeah, and that's where I don't hate it. All right, quick peek at the Panthers. The Bears will get their first round pick next year. Of course, Bryce Young, number 1 overall. That's an immediate upgrade. Really good player who I think is going to have an immediate impact. I think he's the most ready of all the quarterbacks. I think he's going to be an early favorite for Rookie of the Year. Not really going on a limb there too much, although it is the quarterback position, which is sometimes tough. I think the question with Bryce Young is just how will he hold up over the next few years. I think he's going to have a great rookie season, though. They also add Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss early in the second round. So they go get him a big target, too, which he needs. And obviously losing DJ Moore. A little bit later on, fourth round, getting Chandler Zavala, of course, has some injury concerns, but for him to fall all the way to the fourth round, solid addition to the offensive line as well.
No, makes sense. Good. I like the Jonathan Mingo pick for them, especially for a guy like Bryce Young. Guys, did you see the picture of Bryce with next to was it Brian Burns when they're giving each other a handshake?
Oh, I did not.
Oh my goodness, it is
like so small.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the height difference. He looks like a fan going up to Brian Burns, shaking his hand. It's crazy. You guys got to go check that out when you can.
That's awesome. Do you guys think right now, as it stands, that'll be a top 10 pick?
I don't, based on the division.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we get in. Let's go top half here, polls. Let's get a top half.
The Panthers were even kind of frisky, towards the end of last season.
They were a near playoff team last year.
If they had the 9th overall pick this year and added Bryce Young.
I mean, rookie quarterback, though. Can he do it?
It's an upgrade though for what they've had.
100%.
Yeah.
But let's just argue that he has some early struggles. Not even argue. Let's just say logically he has some early struggles. It takes a while for him to find the chemistry. Maybe he gets hurt in the middle of the year. Then they got to go back and rewind.
Yeah.
Although every time I hear Frank Reich talk and with his spiked hair and his whole look, I get nervous. That guy just seems so in control of his life.
All right, let's speed through some super chats here and get out of here. whichever order you want to go. The Duke, $10 for you guys to give me some reassurance that Jordan Love won't hurt me for the next decade.
Duke.
He's not good.
Duke, if there's one thing you can feel confident in life right now is that Jordan Love is not Aaron Rodgers and or Brett Favre or even half of them. You can seriously go out and have a nice cocktail on all of us. You're going to feel great.
All right, next up, Adam, $9.99. Watching all 7 rounds of the draft, I couldn't help but notice how much these organization drafts room are, how they look different. Do teams value the draft more than others?
I would think everyone values a draft.
Yeah, I think they just some value their
Different setups.
facilities looking a certain way versus others. I wouldn't read into that too much. Martin, $9.99. Thanks you guys for all the draft coverage. I wanted to ask how you guys see the offense meshing together with all the new pieces they've added via the draft, free agency, O-line, and skill groups. All look solid. Good news. We're going to go through all that this week on the show a little bit later on. We're going to take a look at the depth charts, later on this week and, reevaluate how the whole roster looks after the draft. And we could see some more free agent signings here as well. Cornelius Pryor, $199. Will Wright have a chance to compete for left tackle? That would surprise me. It's interesting. It would surprise me. But I guess you never know. To me, he looks like a plug and play right tackle. You consider he was better on the right side than left in college. I would probably keep it that way. J.R. Mayberry, $2. Well, the Vildor experiment should be over now. Not bad depth to have, though.
No, yeah, good depth.
Say
Good
that.
depth to have
He'll still be competing. Renetta, not ready to give up on D. Robinson yet. Agree. He's got to take a step forward. He was, developmental player, and he's got a chance to get better this year. Braggs ending the show, $2. The weather gets an F. I agree. Although it's kind of like bear weather, which is not a thing, not a real thing.
They're going to be in a dome.
Yeah. All right, we're out of here. Please follow us on Twitter. Check out all the coverage on our YouTube channel. Scroll around a little bit. We got a breakdown up right now on Roshan Johnson, Darnell Wright, looking at the film. We got videos coming up on Zach Pickens and Gervon Dexter as well that are in the can and on their way. Way more to come. Yes, Carm?
Bears After Dark tonight at 6:30. Bragg's going to give all his thoughts on why he loves the Bears.
Oh, that'll be a long show. All right. That's at 6:30 tonight. We're back also tomorrow at noon. Back in studio. We'll talk to you then.